Despite being one of the biggest clubs in Portugal and developing hosts of young talent over the last few years, Benfica are yet to win a European trophy since the 1960s. Back then, they'd won it 2 years in a row, and when their manager was sacked, he said to the club that he was going to curse them so that they never won another European trophy again, and so far, that has been the case. So, our job today will be to rebuild Benfica into European challenging giants. That will be the aim through transfers across the course of 5 seasons, so let's take a look around the club and see what jobs need to be done. Hi everyone, Jake here. Welcome to the video, welcome to the channel if you're new. As mentioned, today we are back with another rebuild where we're going to be trying to make Benfica the champions of Europe. Before we start though, if you guys could smash the like button on the video, I would massively appreciate it and it will really help with the video's performance. And let me know what rebuild you'd like to see next. And if you are one of the huge portion of people that watch these rebuilds who haven't yet subscribed, I would massively appreciate it if you could. But with that being said, let's start off this rebuild, shall we? So, we are taking over Benfica, who have had plenty of success in their past, but none more so than in the early 60s, where they won the Champions League twice back-to-back. The year after, they were runners-up, and runners-up again, and runners-up again, and then a few years in the future, they were runners-up on another 2 occasions. So really, they've been under that curse since the early 60s of not winning a European title, and that's what we'll be trying to fix today. In terms of the Portuguese league itself, they're still a very competitive side. They won it quite a lot in the 2010s. However, if you do go to the competition and go to the past winners, you'll see they haven't actually won it for 1, 2, 3 seasons now. It's gone to Porto and Sporting between the two. Benfica have been second place, third place on most occasions. We'll be trying to get them first to the top of the Portuguese pyramid, and then we'll eventually go for that Champions League push. But there's a few challenges that we're going to have to deal with here at the club, and one is our financial situation. Obviously, Benfica have sold plenty of players recently. You're thinking João Felix in recent years, Darwin Núñez, all for huge fees, and that actually plays in to the club vision. They want us to buy players to sell for a profit. There you go, you can see it here. But one of the big issues that Benfica has is the debt that they are in, because it might not look too bad here with 9 million in the balance, but we do have 50 million in transfer debt and 350 million in the net debt. So there's a lot of work to be done to get that debt down, or at least to fight against that debt and still compete for trophies. But the good thing about Benfica, as mentioned, is they produce a lot of great young talent, and we have a lot coming through here in the Benfica youth system and in the first team as well. Here's some names in the B team that are all supposedly good enough to be able to play first team football. And then when it comes to our first team squad, we've got a bunch of players under the age of 23 who could hopefully contribute to our team. If we're talking the players with the most potential, we have centre-back Antonio Silva, and we've also got centre-back Morato. I think those two could make a great defensive pairing. We also have, of course, the brilliant Enzo Fernandez, who it's going to be a big struggle to keep a hold of in this simulation, I would have thought. In this rebuild, we don't play any matches. We make the transfers and let the assistant manager take care of the games themselves. We set the tactics and whatnot, but we're fully focused on the transfers, so we need to make sure we get them right, and hanging on to some of these players, or at least getting a big fee for these players, is going to be key. We also have Henrique Araujo, a striker with a lot of talent and a lot of potential, who hopefully can do a good job for us. And in terms of the actual best players at the club currently, we've got Nicolas Otamendi at 34 years of age, and Rafa. He's been at Benfica for a few years now, is consistently good and has some great attributes, but does have interest from Tottenham, and there's a lot of interest in general around the players at our club. And with a very small amount to spend, I think we might have to do some selling before we can actually buy some players, so maybe we'll choose to cash in on some of those transfers. Tactically, I'm not too sure what to go with just yet, but I think that will depend on what transfers we bring in. So my first job is to bring some players in, get rid of some ahead of the start of our first season. And there isn't too much that special going on just yet in terms of transfers. The main things are a big player sale in Nicolas Otamendi going to Chelsea. They came in for 5.5 million. He wanted to go, and I was willing to take the money for a 34-year-old in a position where we've got some great young talent who I'm now going to push on into the first team. So he makes way, and now the young players can come in. But with that money, I did improve our midfield options by signing Nicolas Dominguez, an Argentinian 24-year-old who came from Bologna in Serie A. He's a good passer who also works hard and is a good tackler, very well-rounded physically. He is going to be a very nice player to have in our midfield, particularly with the tactic that we're playing, and I've decided on going for something that looks like this. It's a 4-2-4 gegenpress, so we've got a 4 at the back with 2 defensive midfielders. One's a ball-winning midfielder, one is a deep-line playmaker. We then have 2 wide players, 2 inside forwards trying to score goals, a pressing forward with an advanced forward up top. And if we went to pick our best 11 currently, it would look something like this. Goncalo Ramos, I suppose we should talk about, scored a hat-trick in the World Cup in real life, and we'll be hoping we get some success out of him here, but clearly not deemed to be the player that he could be in real life just yet, because here the only interest in him is from Almeria of all clubs. So it doesn't look like he's going to be a well beater in this save, but who knows? We've got our team ready here. We've made some transfers. We've improved the depth in our team. And with that being said, let's simulate the first season, see how we get on, and then we can really judge things from there. In terms of the media preview, if we have a look at that, we're expected to come second place. There you go. Porto are odds-on favourites to win the league by quite a distance. And in terms of the best 11 in the league, we've got Grimaldo, Enzo Fernandez and Rafa. But other than that, it's dominated mainly by Porto. They're going to be our first challenge, and hopefully we can also go far in the Champions League. And for a first season, it's been very interesting, and we found out a lot about our club. The first thing is the league. We did not win it. We actually got joint top with Porto, who beat us by 3 goals in the goal difference. 11 points over third place. We got knocked out in the Champions League in the round of 16, so we did make the knockouts, but it did mean there's no Europa League, which might be the more winnable trophy for us right now. And then for the first time since 2016, we won the Taça del Portugal. That's 1 trophy down, so we've done a good job there, but overall, I would have liked to have won the league title, but clearly we need to do some work. But the first season is where we find out the most about our team, and it's now informed my decision of who I think we could potentially sell and where we need improvement. But in terms of who's performed well for us, I won't go into this much detail every year, but if we're looking at average match rating, David Neres was exceptional, but it was the 46 goals from Henrique Araujo that was particularly strong. He scored 29 in 32 league appearances and scored plenty more outside of that in other competitions, and is now wanted by some of the biggest clubs in world football. And whilst I know Benfica want me to sell players for a profit, and that's probably what we're going to have to do to get some money and also negate that debt that we had, I actually don't think I'm going to do that anywhere near as often as the club want me to, because I do want to challenge for these trophies, and selling our best players is not going to help with that. But it was a good season from all of the players you'd expect to do well. Julian Weigl is coming back from his loan. I don't know whether there was an option to make it permanent, but right now they haven't done so. They might still choose to, but it looks like the team's ready to go for next year, but we need to make some signings first. So now's the first chance to really properly get stuck into some transfers, so let's see what we've got. We made our first bit of cash by selling on Haris Seferovic over to Galatasaray. He's a star player over there. He was there on loan last season. It's now a permanent deal, so he's left. We also sold 30-year-old Brazilian right-back Gilberto to RB Leipzig for a pretty small fee, to be honest, of only £4 million. But the other major sale, our biggest sale of the window, was Vladikomos going over to Tottenham, where I imagine he's gone to replace Hugo Lloris. They've paid £11 million for him after a good season for us last time out. He goes to join Tottenham. I'm sure he'll have a good time there, but it did mean we needed a new goalkeeper. And sticking in the theme of buying young players to help improve the team, we have gone for Alban Lafont, who is playing for Nantes in the first division out in France, where he wasn't great, but he also wasn't in that good of a team, and he's clearly got a lot of potential. We've paid £9 million for him, so it's less than the fee that we got for Vladikomos, and because he's only 24 years of age, he's got a lot of room to get better yet. I very much like the look of him, not lacking in any particular area really, 6'4" as well. He could be our goalkeeper for this whole rebuild. And to replace Gilberto at right back, we've gone for another Argentinian. We've signed Dominguez, we've got Enzo Fernandez. Now we have Agustin Guiai, who joins us from San Lorenzo out in the Argentinian divisions. After a good season for them, we pay £5.5 million for a player who isn't isn't the finished product yet, is going to deputise for a little while in that right back spot, and then hopefully he can make it his own as time goes on. I very much like the look of him. I think he's got everything that he needs to be a strong, right-sided, attacking fullback, and hopefully he develops into the player we think he can. And that was pretty much our transfer business done. There is a little bit left in the transfer budget, but I didn't really see anywhere where I wanted to waste it. I'm also aiming to promote a lot of this young talent from the development centre, so for that reason I decided not to spend too much money and to use these young players that we can hopefully sell on for a profit in the future. In terms of the club's finances, the debts and loans are getting much better now, so we're doing a good job in that sense, and we've also got a lot more money in the overall balance, so we're doing a much better job financially now. The club seems to be on an upwards trajectory, and hopefully this will mean we can push on to win the league title. Our best 11 is currently Lafont, Verissimo, Morato, Grimaldo and Alexandra Bar at right back. We also have Florentino Luis in the midfield with Enzo Fernandez, Neres, Ramos, Arujo and Rafa. So we haven't done that much crazy so far, but we're just making little changes to try and take Benfica to the next level. Let's see in season 2 if we can go further in Europe and maybe win the league title. Let's check it out. And here we go. This is our results from season 2, and I've got to say I'm a little bit happy, a little bit disappointed. First thing is the league title, which again, we don't manage to win. And I feel like by now I should have won it with the team that we've got here. We've got so much talent. We scored more than Porto this year, but they ended up winning 2 more games than us, finished 3 points ahead of us in the title, and again, we miss out on the league. But thankfully, we can add all the other cup competitions to the cabinet now. We won the Taça del Portugal last year, and this year we've won the Allianz Cup, and we've also won the Portuguese Super Cup. Now that's great, that's 3 trophies in 2 years, but really the ones we won are those Champions League, and particularly right now at this stage, the Portuguese League title, but it wasn't to be. In terms of the Champions League, you'll see it was quarterfinals this year. We did lose to Liverpool, but we did well to get there. We knocked out Barcelona in the knockout stages and actually thrashed them, to be honest. But then Liverpool was a bit too far of a step for us. We lost 1-0 in the first leg with 10 men, and then we lost to Liverpool in the home leg as well, with Paulo Dybala scoring twice. At least it wasn't Darwin Núñez, but overall, we're doing pretty well. It's just the odd loss here or there that is costing us that chance at the league title. We need to get these transfers right in season 3 though, because if we keep going like this, there's a good chance this rebuild is going to be a complete failure. I wanted to win the UCL in 5 years. If after 3 we can't win the league title, we've got issues, so we need to get it right. And I certainly feel like we did that. After a good couple of years in terms of individual performances, we've managed to get some decent transfer fees for players, which means in turn we can bring good players in because the board aren't willingly given out too much cash to us to spend. Our first sale was Frederick Arunas, who has gone to Everton. No idea how you pronounce his name. Benfica signed him in the first season for £11 million. We've sold him on for 27 after, fairly good performances, but for a championship side to come to us and pay £27 million for this guy, seems like Everton kind of business, doesn't it? The 28-year-old Norwegian's gone and we take that cash and reinvest it, but not before we added another £15 million to the transfer pot by selling Brazilian centre-back / right-back cover option João Victor, who wasn't really in my plans. He was our 4th choice centre-back at this stage, and there was a young player called Fonseca who's came through, so I decided to let him go. Juve wanted to sign him, and we took that money and we ran away with it. And I really wanted quality over quantity here, and one issue that I thought we had was depth in terms of those wide players. We had Rafa and David Neres, but outside of both of them, there wasn't really that much quality, so I've decided to go all out and sign Michael Elise, which I think was a great signing for Benfica here. We signed him from Crystal Palace after a very good season from last time out. A 7.3 in a Premier League for Palace is a very good average match rating. We forked out 32 million. That might seem like a lot, but considering what we got for Arunas that went to Everton, it's not that much more than that, and I think he's a far better player, and he's still only 22, Elise, so I think he's going to grow with the club. I think he's a brilliant signing, and probably the best one we'll make in this whole rebuild. And we also needed an extra striker option up front, so I've gone for youngster Matthias Arezzo, a fan favourite of years gone by in Football Manager. Hasn't quite worked out for him at Granada in this simulated world, couldn't even score in the 2nd division, yet my scouts were still speaking pretty highly of him. I feel like we've overpaid here at 17.5 mil, but I wanted a young striker that we could potentially sell for a profit like the club wants. And it leaves our best 11 currently looking like this. There's not too much movement other than Elise coming in, but I should note players like Antonio Silva are developing very nicely. At the age of 20, he's looking good. We let João Victor go because of a young centre-back that I mentioned, and it's this man, João Fonseca, who at the age of 17 already looks potentially ready to play in the first division, so he's going to be our fourth choice centre-back. And if we're looking at the average age of the squad, it's definitely down on what we initially took in. Henrique Araujo, I want to talk about though, still wanted by two big clubs, and that's because he had another stormer of a season last time out. He's been scoring goals for fun. At this stage is one of the most informed strikers in world football, and hopefully he'll be able to guide us to a league title in season 3. I'm crossing my fingers we are, else we're really going to struggle in this rebuild. Let's see how we get on. And we've actually made it happen. We have gone and won the league title by 6 points this year. Were we better? Were Porto worse? Probably a mixture of the two. We only lost one league game all season, which I'm very happy with, but it was a 5-0 away loss to Porto, which I'm sure the fans weren't happy with, but they'll take that, right? The league title is ours. We've also won the Allianz Cup, but this is the first time Benfica have won it for 5 seasons. We're no longer the runner-up club. We have managed to get that title under our belt, and hopefully we can hold it for the next few years. The Champions League was a bit more disappointing though. We did make it out of the group, but we did lose to Atalanta in the round of 16 in penalties. My hope now though is that by winning the league, we're going to be a top seed club of course, and then we can get an easier group and therefore hopefully get an easier knockout round stage if we finish top of the group, and who knows what could happen from there. So I feel like it's a good step. So there we go, we're 3 seasons in. A lot of players here have had brilliant seasons this time round. I mean, just looking at the best one, Araujo scoring 48 in 51 appearances. We are on fire. We're managing to hold on to a lot of our big players, rejecting huge offers. There's a lot of players in this club though, like Enzo Fernandez, where I've agreed a fee that he could leave for if someone's came in. So we're going to be playing this right on the edge in terms of whether we keep these players, but I've got my fingers crossed that we will. Now the real job begins. We've got 2 seasons to try and take this team from the best side in Portugal to the best side in Europe. Can we make it happen? Well, we're certainly trying to, because we've made some huge sales and spent way more than any other window so far. If you are enjoying the video up to this point, smash the like button for us. But João Mario has now left the club at the age of 32. AC Milan came in with a £22 million offer that I could not reject for a player that's, I mean, yes, he was good for us and he's very consistent, as you can see in his coach report, but he was no longer first team quality. 32 years of age, to get any kind of cash for him was good. To get over 20 million was phenomenal, so we had to let him go. Of course, in this rebuild, as much as it is about transfers, Benfica have a great young squad, and I've got to make sure I make the use of that as well. But we did sell another key Benfica player, and that was Rafa, who's gone to PSG for a huge fee of 35 million. Now, this one I can understand, even though he is 32. PSG have obviously got bags to spend, and he's been playing very well in this rebuild. Probably one of the most consistently good players in the team. Starting to get a little less game time. His contract demands were getting a little bit more excessive, and I felt like it was time to cash in before it was too late. So he's gone for 35 mil. And we also say goodbye to our starting right back, Alexandre Ba, a 27-year-old Danish international who has been very good for us, and now he's left to join Juve, much like João Victor did before, for 20 odd million pounds. Might seem like a bad bit of business to sell our best right back, but we've made a brilliant signing in that position. And that's because we've managed to get our hands on Jeremy Frimpong, who is transfer listed at Bayer Leverkusen. Now, he's 24 years of age at this point, was considered one of the best right backs in world football, and he's very good going forward. He's been playing well for Leverkusen, not amazing, but doing very well, and it's meant that we could spend £33 million on him, which might seem excessive, but remember how much we got for Rafa, for João Mario, and for Alexandre Ba. We were certainly ready to reinvest it, and Frimpong came in. And when I was looking for my replacement for the recently departed Rafa, I noticed after signing him, PSG had loan listed someone on our shortlist, and it is of course Andreas Schelderup. Now, I went further rather than loaning him, I actually bid for him and ended up being able to sign the Norwegian 21-year-old for £39 million from PSG. Now, I felt like I had to get him in this rebuild because, of course, he has signed for Benfica in real life. It hadn't taken place in FM yet, that's why we didn't start with him. However, I made sure that we brought him in at some point, so Andreas Schelderup is in, as he will be in real life, and he looks like a phenomenal player. And the final signing was a player that I haven't actually came across before, but he looks very, very good. It's Austrian under-21 capped left-back, Zayed El Shawi. He joins us from Austria Vienna, and I'm very happy to have him because he's very strong physically, very quick, and definitely a strong left-back option. Considering who we've got there currently in Alex Grimaldo, he's starting to get a little bit older, and we need someone to deputise and eventually take over that role. And I think El Shawi here could be a great pick. So we've now got a much better squad. We've managed to promote a few more young players into the first team as well. Particularly interested to see how Scher and Dor can get on, because he looks like he has the attributes to fit in perfectly in our team. And I'm really happy with the side that we've built so far. I do actually think, on paper, I'm not saying this side could win a Champions League, but they're definitely knockout round quality. There's a lot of players there that could easily play for the biggest clubs in world football, and they're also all very young and willing to get better. I mean, Verissimo is the oldest of the bunch, but really his position is ready to be taken over by Antonio Silva. Grimaldo is also quite old, but outside of that, we're talking 25, 24, 20 odd years of age. The midfield's young, the attack's young. This is exactly what we want with this Benfica team. We're going to play well, we're going to win trophies, and then sell our players on for huge amounts of cash. So let's see how we can get on in our penultimate season in season 4. And things look like they're certainly going in the right direction. Forget about the Allianz Cup and the loss in the Super Cup. We've managed to win the Taça de Portugal again, which is obviously fantastic, but this time in the league we've really separated the gap between us and Porto. It's now a 7-point gap, but also the goal difference is much larger, and our points total in particular is what I'm very happy with, hitting 91 points, which we haven't been close to so far. So very, very happy with that. A good season. And then the Champions League, we kind of rode our luck a little bit, but we did get knocked out in the semi-finals, but we did make it all the way to the semis. PSG did eventually beat us, and that is going to be the hardest part of this rebuild, competing with clubs like them in the knockout stages. At this stage in Football Manager, the Champions League has completely changed the way that it works, but we started off with a round of 16 tie against Porto. We were 2-0 down in that, but we managed to pull it back in normal time, only to then win it in penalties, which is great. It would have been horrible to go out to them. We then knocked out Liverpool, getting revenge for that quarter-final exit a few years ago, absolutely battering them, might I add as well. But then we get to PSG, we lost 3-0, we got battered on the day, we managed to beat them at home and nearly run them into some kind of sticky situation. 3 of those goals did come past the 80th minute, so how much PSG were trying, I don't know. But it's not a bad performance at all. Semi-final is great. But of course, at this stage, Benfica are still the club that can't win a European trophy. The curse still continues, and we need to try and resolve that in our final season. We've been given a very nice transfer budget this year. The debt has about halved since we've taken over, which is great. The balance looks fantastic. We've also got great facilities now, pretty much perfect in all aspects, outside of one extra bonus point that we need for youth facilities. But this is going to be our year. We just need to sign some quality players, get rid of the ones that might cause some trouble if they don't play, and hopefully then our team will be ready to try and at least compete for a Champions League. But we've had a little bit of a spanner thrown in the works here because we've lost Antonio Silva, our star youngster centre-back. It was on a nominal release clause fee, and it was actually last season as well, which I didn't even know about. Obviously, when I make these transfers, I then holiday the year. I didn't even notice he's gone, but we lost him last year for £40 million. As soon as I started this transfer window, I was looking into our centre-backs, and that's when I realised he's gone. He has not done well for Man City at all. I'm sure if we wanted him back, we could loan him back, but he's made his choice. He's gone, £40 million in the bank, and that's where that transfer budget must have came from last season. But there was no point crying over spilt milk, so we went out and bought a new centre-back option. He's there to be a cover option, not a starter, but he's very, very strong physically. It's 6 foot, Italian, under-21 international, Ibrahima Bamba, who at the time was playing for Barcelona, having signed from fellow Portuguese club Vitória Guimarães in the first season here in this rebuild. Now, he hasn't been good at all for Barca, but he was very good when he was in our league. Barca went on to pay £26 £1.6 million for him, and our scouts saw him as the best centre-back option that they could find, so I trusted them. He also provides cover in the midfield, so he's a good option, but we signed one more player, and that was again another player to stack out our midfield. It's Samuel Ricci. He joins from Torino in Italy, where he's been playing really well, particularly over the last couple of years. He fits our tactics really well. He's a brilliant passer of the ball, and it hopefully eases the pressure a little bit off of Enzo Fernandez, who is pretty much our sole creator. So I'm happy to have Richie. We've mainly focused on developing the depth here so far at the club in these last couple of transfer windows, but during all of this, our players have been developing really well. We now have some of the best young talent in world football. You can see the amount of clubs that are interested in our players here. I think we've done a fantastic job rebuilding this club and making a team that could actually compete for trophies. The big question, of course, is if we actually can. We'll simulate the final season and we'll find out if this team is ready to actually compete for some European silverware. I really hope that we either win something or don't lose in the final. I'd rather get knocked out somewhere else. If we lose in the final, I think I might cry. Let's see if this team can win the Champions League. I've actually already looked at these results. I don't usually check, but I've actually seen what's happened already. I couldn't miss it based on what was happening at the top. You know, when you're simulating, I can still see the results that are coming in and the little news articles. And just prepare yourself, because this might not just be one of the best seasons in Benfica's history, but maybe one of the best seasons in football history, full stop. Are you ready for this? Brace yourself. We have won every single trophy. I'm talking the Champions League, which we'll get onto in a second, an incredible win. The Taça de Portugal, the Allianz Cup, the Portuguese Super Cup, but add on to that, winning the league title, not just winning it, guys. We haven't just won it. I saw a message pop up, and if it is true, we've actually won it unbeaten. 98 points in the league season, only 2 draws. This was a phenomenal year. Henrique Araujo has carried us, and look at the player he's became. I've never seen him get this good. That's amazing that he's done so well here. We're almost bound to lose him to one of these big clubs, but he is so loved at Benfica that I hope he does stay. But yes, we've won everything on offer, and I guess technically haven't lost all season, right? Is that the case? Yeah, we didn't even lose a friendly. We won one match 40-0. Okay, that's a cup match. But, okay, no, we did lose something. Okay, so we lost the first legs of a match. We've actually done quite well to get through, because we did lose a good few legs, including another semi-final against PSG where we actually made it through this time, thanks to a Michael Elise goal. How this has happened as well, by the way, I don't know. In the first leg, we scored 2 goals in the 93rd minute. We also beat Porto in the final game of the season to win a trophy. But I want to show you this, because you will see Edouard Mendy own goal. Now, I have seen this. I know what happens. I had to have a look at it when I saw that we won from an own goal. It looks like we deservedly won, mind you. Here's our equaliser in the 47th minute. Araujo gets played in. He makes a good run down that left-hand side, puts a good cross in, finds Frimpong, and Florentino Luis blasts it into the net for one of the best Champions League final goals you'll ever see. But then it gets to the 90th minute. Remember, it's 1-1 at this point, and it is dead on the 90th. Watch this from Edouard Mendy. How can you win a Champions League from that? That's worse than Karius. I mean, I'm very happy. Mendy gets a 6.2. Chelsea fans will be very annoyed at him, I'm sure, but we are so happy to finally break the curse, to win a European trophy, and to have one of the best seasons in football history. If we're talking about the best players this season, it's obviously got to be Araujo with 72 goals, Ramos scoring 40, and Michael Elise getting 27 as well. We've absolutely dominated there. Enzo Fernandez getting shin splints in the Champions League final against Chelsea, but still manages to do amazing for us. Look how balanced his graph is as well. I really did not expect it to go this well. I kind of had prepared myself that we were going to have quite an underwhelming one. I was already thinking in my head, how am I going to do this rebuild if we never actually break the curse? But we've managed to do it. What a great season that was. If we're looking at our best 11 now, it looks like this. Lafont, Frimpong, Bamba Morato, Shewi, Luis, Fernandez, Elise, shoulder up, Goncalo Ramos, and Henrique Araujo. Clearly the star of the show. And if you ever need a striker in your save, sign him, because he's going to score bags of goals by the looks of it. But there we go, guys. That was our Benfica rebuild. If you have enjoyed it, smash the like button for us. Subscribe for more. Let me know who you'd like to see rebuilt in the comments down below. But most of all, have a great day, everybody, and I'll see you next time. Thank you and goodbye.